Redeemed, rehabilitated, and real entertaining. This is the Carl Jackson Podcast.
Welcome back to the Carl Jackson Show podcast, guys. I want to talk to you about my sponsors, 4patriots.com and mypillow.com. First off, let's talk about 4Patriots. Guys, listen, a food shortage is coming or could be coming, and I want you to be prepared, even in the U.S., sadly. All right, so whether it's drought, whether it's inflation, whether it's, Biden inflation, Biden economics, whatever it may be, I want you to be prepared. Go to my friends at 4patriots.com. I want you to stock up on survival food. This is super survival food, if you will. The food lasts for 25 years. It's water resistant. Their kits they stack easily. A portion of every sale goes out to help charities that help out veterans and their families. So you'll have the added benefit of not only knowing that you're helping your family, but you're also helping the family of veterans. All right. So get your 25-year super survival food from 4patriots.com. For first-time purchasers, if you call, you will get 10% off of your first purchase. Or if you go to 4patriots.com, use the promo code Carl, my name, CARL. You'll get 10% off your first purchase. This includes a 3-month survival kit. You'll get a year-long guarantee with purchases that are $97 and free shipping as well. So 4Patriots, that is the number 4patriots.com. 4patriots.com, 4patriots.com. All right, guys, let's take a quick program. Well, stay tuned for a quick program messaging, and we'll be right back. Welcome to today's edition of the Carl Jackson Show podcast. Guys, I have what I consider to be a superstar on the podcast with me today. And that is Marissa Streit of PragerU. She's the CEO of PragerU. I wanted to have her on because I wanted to talk about all the ways in which PragerU is impacting our culture, impacting our country, and I would argue even helping to save our country. So, Marissa Streit, welcome to the Carl Jackson Show podcast.
It's so great to be here. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Okay, so I watched your stories of us on PragerU, and I was absolutely fascinated by it, Marissa. You said something that struck a chord with me, and I'll read the quote and I'll get your response. Once I saw all that evil, all the lies, I couldn't unsee it, you said. I couldn't keep going to sleep at night being a part of the problem. That just seems so big for me. Like, I mean, you went from, you were an educator. I want you to get into your story a little bit. You were seeing some things in the educational realm that inspired you to fight back. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, Carl, I mean, it really is too big, and it can almost be overwhelming, except that it doesn't matter how big the problem is. We still have to fight it because we're talking about our kids, right? My kids, your kids, America's kids, right? This really matters. This is our future. And so I taught every grade, kindergarten through 7th. I have a master's in education. I even ran a school. Many of my friends have dealt with just the atrocious teachers' unions who really admit that they don't care about teachers. They don't care about kids. They just care about power. There was a speech that I watched when I was an educator in 2008 where the main attorney for the teachers union actually announced in front of everybody that what they're after is power and not helping kids. And so that resonated with me. What also resonated with me was that as a teacher, I wasn't even taught what to teach. And so one might say that might be a good thing, but we weren't taught actually how to teach a kid how to read. We were taught how to teach kids to be young activists. And that is just crazy because I don't blame America's teachers for our failing education system. And I'll say it again, it is a failing education system. We're failing our kids. And by doing that, we're failing our future. I don't blame the teachers. I actually blame the teacher colleges, and I blame the unions, and I blame the culture that has allowed us to put our kids last. Every single year, you may notice that they lower the standards.
Yep.
I mean, I want to elaborate what that means. So I run an organization. I report to a board. Imagine I would go to my board and I would say to them, This year, I met all of my goals. You know how I did that? By lowering the standard.
Right.
You know,
That would be insane. Yeah.
I mean, that is child abuse to rob kids of a future by lowering the standards in the name of whatever woke CRT agenda
Right.
that they have. I mean, all kids are suffering from that. And so the combination of the lowering of the standards, the really not equipping teachers to properly teach and educate our kids on basic things such as reading, writing, arithmetic, and just replacing all of that with, just really leftist propaganda for the most part, or whatever is, in the culture, in the PC culture. I realized very quickly that system cannot be fixed from within. And I'll tell you, the Department of Education is no help in that either. And, you can feel really defeated when you're working with kids and you realize that you just can't help them. And while you try to help one kid at a time, or even one classroom at a time, or even one school at a time, and eventually you realize that tsunami that is set up against America's kids, that's coming in all directions. I had two choices as educator, to try to fix the system from within, or leave the system and try to think about a new way, a technology that can help save our children. And that is essentially where PragerU came in.
Man, that's so well said here. I want to go back to something you said. You talked about the teachers unions and how they just seem to be seeking to they just want more power. This is absolutely fascinating to me, Marissa, because I got to tell you, I grew up in Los Angeles, California, and so I recall going to school in the hood, quite frankly, where our teachers, we had a black principal, we had a black vice principal, and these people did not teach us to be victims. I mean, whatever people might feel about racial issues, I mean, specifically at one point in time, the vice principal actually taught a class, The Gifted and Talented Educated. I was in that class for a year or two, and I mean, she would tell us that we had to work hard. There was no victim mentality whatsoever. And every teacher that I came in contact with seemed to want our best interest. And when I say our, I'm speaking of everybody. And I mean, there were gangsters all in the school. It was insane. It was like Lean on Me with Morgan Freeman, Marissa. But the teachers seemed to care about making sure that students learned and they got ahead. What the heck happened? When did this happen? When did the teachers' unions become so powerful that they're able to literally destroy children's lives with little fight or effort against them?
I mean, I think there was a process in that. I do think that the America's education institutions have leaned left for a very long time, even before you were in school. And I think the teachers' unions have used their political agenda really to advance left-wing agenda for a long time, before you and I went to grade school. However, even when I was a teacher about 20 years ago, it was not nearly as divisive and in your face as it is today, where now it has just become popular to slice and dice America into pieces. Really, they're tearing us into pieces, and it's a horrible thing. I mean, I remember I was born in 1981. I remember growing up and thinking, what an amazing place America is. I come from a Jewish heritage. I feel like an American here. What an amazing thing it is to live in America and be fine with that. And honestly, I would look at my friends, no matter what color of their skin or what gender they were or what last name they had. And I would just say, you know, it is an absolute melting pot, right? We're colorblind. Right. Those words were just words that we celebrated and really brought us together as Americans. And that is the way it should be in America. Yeah. And then somehow it became a powerful tool to control the mind of young Americans, to slice and dice us into pieces and actually claim that the melting pot is bad for Americans and we should be some form of fruit salad, right? And so because of the color of your skin, Carl, and because of the color of my skin or because of my heritage, you and I are not the same Americans, and therefore we are different and we should be treated differently. It's racist, honestly,
Yes.
and it's scary. And I think that we're not just seeing this in education, we're seeing this in our culture.
Yep.
But education is what got us into this mess. And I also believe that only education can get us out of this mess. If we teach kids that they are different and they're victimized and we are not all Americans and we have no reason to be patriots, we will basically create cancer. We are creating cancer in our own country. And I don't know how this will be reversible if we don't see some changes done quickly.
Marissa, to that point, I absolutely despise racism. I hate it. I don't care, obviously. I mean, that's a no duh moment. But I don't care who the racist is. I don't care what color the racist is. I get so tired of people saying, and specifically speaking about blacks within my own community, blacks can't be racist. And I'm like, well, you're going to have to take that up with God when you meet him, because that is a really stupid and asinine statement. But it seems to me, I really felt like America, I really felt like we had pretty much gotten over racism. And I want to get your thought on this, frankly, until Barack Obama ascended to the White House. I felt like literally, I can recall a moment in time where I was out doing yard work, and I kid you not, Marissa, it was the weirdest thing. It was like God was just sending me a message just right in front of my face. And there was if I recall correctly, there was a black boy, there was a Asian boy, and there was a white girl and a white boy walking together, and one of them dribbling a basketball. And I just sat there and I was like, oh my God. I mean, not that I even thought about this stuff all the time, but I was like, oh my God, we made it. I mean, we're here. And then it wasn't too long after Barack Obama ascended into the White House, and the whole Trayvon Martin thing. If I had a son, he'd look like Trayvon Martin and all this kind of nonsense. And then I just saw him systematically start dividing people. And I saw him as well what he started to do, in my opinion, was to, as far as black leaders and churches were concerned, he started to press or push back against biblical values, even in the black community. And I'm like, is anybody seeing what this guy is doing? And so I kind of track it back to there, our digression, if you will. Do you see it differently?
Completely. And, honestly, I resent him for that, because I think he really ruined us, whether, I believe he probably planned it or realized that by dividing us as Americans, you can control us further. The more divided we are, the more you can control us. And that is basically what the left has been doing, dividing and slicing, and weakening really the fibers of America, and weakening the fibers of the American dream. And so, I resent this so badly. I'll tell you a story of something that happened down the street from my office here in Los Angeles. There was a school about a year and a half ago that told all the white kids that if they'd like to audition for the school play, they have to wait for all the kids of color to audition first.
Unbelievable.
I mean, is that
unbelievable?
Just heartbreaking? I mean, I could almost burst into tears, because it is the most un-American thing to do to children. What have these kids done? Both kids, what have they done to anyone to have to suffer under this kind of ideology
Right.
that is so seeped in hate and really just takes hope away from children? It's just so awful. Yeah.
I absolutely hate it. And again, guys, I am speaking to Marissa Streit. She is the CEO of PragerU, and this is fundraising month for PragerU. Correct me if I'm wrong, Marissa. So if you donate, you get the match is 3 times the amount or something like.
Yeah. So every dollar you give today will actually be triple matched. So it's a great opportunity. If you can't afford to give us as much as you want, help us today, and it will be tripled.
Okay. All right. So I got a buttload of questions for you, but I promise I will get through them as quickly as I can because I know you are a busy woman. Going back to the stories of us that I watched of you, this is something that fascinates me, and it's something that I rail against oftentimes. You have a very interesting background. You were raised by a single mother, if I recall correctly. But today you're married, you're a mother, you're CEO of PragerU, uh, wife, mother, CEO of PragerU. Here's what I love. Here's the point that I'm trying to make. What frustrates me about the left oftentimes is that if they grow up in a situation where it seemed like you had the right perspective, and I definitely want you to comment on this, even growing up as a youngster. But it's okay. So I grew up with a life that was a little different, maybe single mom, only child, or something like that. I'm not necessarily going to get married, or the traditional image or the traditional idea of marriage is bad. I love when I see, I don't know why, but I love when I do know why, but I love when I see you grew up single mom, but today you're married, wife, mother. Talk to us about that, because I love the fact that you didn't throw away the ideal. You didn't become a victim and say, woe is me, single mom, I'm going to grow up the same way.
Yeah, so I was a latchkey kid. Actually, my mom had to work many, many hours. So oftentimes I would walk home from school and I would make myself lunch, and I had to make, nobody helicoptered over me. I had to make sure that I studied and prepared for tests and really took care of myself. And you know what I say? I say I kiss my calluses. That's one of the phrases that I said since I was a kid. And I realized that actually adversity had become, actually getting over adversity has become my superpower. And I'll tell you a little
That's
secret. I
good.
have many friends that are CEOs and donors that are CEOs, and every single one of them has emerged from adversity. Adversity actually can be a gift,
Right.
because it's God telling you that you are strong enough to overcome. And if you believe in yourself and you believe in the journey that God creates for you, you don't come out of it resentful. You come out of it a ninja. You become very, very powerful. And so that's how I looked at it. Every single hardship that I went through my whole life, and I continue to go through hardships. We all do, right? Life
Sure.
is hard. Being
Sure.
an adult is hard. Being a parent is hard. Being the daughter of elderly parents is hard. But you know what? Those adversities are actually what builds those calluses that allow us to become stronger and really build a certain sophistication in the way we look at life, and in realizing that there are amazing, beautiful things in life and there are challenges in life, and it's all in our mindset, how we decide to handle those things. And so for anybody that is listening, I want you to know that the strongest, most capable people that I know are people who emerged out of adversity. And we should look at that as an opportunity to conquer and not to take us down. That's the great differentiator.
Man, I love that. I love that. And speaking of the word conquer, here's something I did not know. You were in the Israeli military.
Yeah. So
That
I
that
was
is
an
freaking cool.
American. Because I was raised in Israel, I moved to Israel when I was 7. And by the way, it made me a solid patriot. I'll tell you, you want to love America, go live in the Middle East, and
Wow.
Israel is a wonderful place, but still, if you live outside of your country, you become oftentimes very, appreciative of where you came from. And so I was raised in Israel, and I served in Israeli intelligence. It was a small unit, 8,200. And boy, did they pour into me. I learned so much, just how to think differently. I mean, my whole concept of adversity, in many ways, Israel could not have suffered under more adversity than many other countries in the area. And so I learned a lot from that. And I took a lot of those things that I've learned from living in Israel and serving in the Israeli military. And now I serve America. Now I serve America so that, our young kids don't lose their minds at the hands of, some people who really don't care about them.
All right. I mean, absolutely fascinating story. Marissa, I used to, or I still do oftentimes when I'm, whether it's the podcast or whether I'm on air, I've developed several acronyms that just kind of point me in the right direction as far as policies are concerned or what have you. And I used to talk about some of the things that were destroying America, and I created this acronym HIRE, and it was healthcare, immigration, regulation, and sometimes I would interchange energy and education. But I'm having to think of a new acronym because there's all types of crap that the left is using to destroy America. And as you say, it starts with education. It's one of the reasons I give a plug to PragerU. I watch PragerU just so I can become smarter. Let me just say this real quick. I just watched a video, I think it was yesterday, and I'm so glad you guys did it. It is on Jesus, whether or not Jesus was a socialist. And I've honestly written about this. I've talked about it on radio. But to see you guys do it with the exposure that you guys have, 1 billion views annually, absolutely.
1.9. We're at
1.9.
Last year we got 1.9 billion views. Yeah.
Good Lord. Okay, so I'm double. I'm double appreciative. Okay, 1.9. Oh my God. Okay, so 1.9. I was so appreciative that you guys did that video. Because and I'll get back to the acronym thing. I'm sorry, sometimes I'm a little ADHD, but when I was so appreciative that you guys did that video, because I'll be frank with you, Marissa, and I don't say this lightly. I don't say it to blow smoke up your butt or any of that, but I love the Bible. I love the Constitution, and I absolutely love PragerU. I love what you guys have been able to do with PragerU and the impact that you guys are having. And that video to me is very significant because I feel like the cancer of leftism, sadly, has grown in churches, in synagogues, and it absolutely is abhorrent to me. And so hopefully, that's what PragerU is doing. Maybe if I could just get your response to that.
Well, I'm just so honored that we're able to serve you. And I know Dennis Prager thinks the world of you. He oftentimes told me about when he first met you. And so, that is really our goal. Our goal is to pour into the hearts and minds of Americans, both with influence and just all over the country, who are not being taught some of these important ideas that are not just necessarily political. They're not just historical, but so much of what we teach is about having a better life, having goodness, having meaning. And so we make content. I don't know if you know this, but we make content now for every single age, whether you're 4 years old or you're 104 years old. Our platform now is serving people like a ministry, right? When you walk into a church, you grab your 4-year-old kid and your 104-year-old grandma, and everybody has a place to grow intellectually, morally, and emotionally. And that is what we're trying to bring back to young Americans, or to Americans in general over the country, right? They're not learning what they need to learn in schools. Many of them are not attending church. And so we want to make sure that Americans are not left with this vacuum of important knowledge. We have a nation with amnesia that doesn't understand where we come from. Yet we're telling everybody that they should vote. Like, how do you vote if you don't even understand what you're voting about or what your country is about? And, I talk about education. It's like we're handing these kids an entire symphony, expecting them to conduct a symphony without understanding what music is about, what is a cello, who are the players. And then we're also telling them, not only do you need to conduct this symphony without understanding anything, the cello is also racist at the same time.
That's so true.
It's just completely bonkers. And so this is really what we're trying to do. We're trying to give people the notes to this beautiful music that has created America, like these ideas that have made America such a unique place in the world. And so when I hear you tell me about how our short videos have impacted you, it's really reassuring, because that is for me ROI, return on influence. And the fact that we get millions of anecdotes from families that have little kiddos that are watching PragerU and feeling like they're getting broccoli for their brain. I mean, how adorable is that? And then we get, influential people like you who are telling us that we've been able to pour into you. And then, we even have politicians, and definitely we need more politicians watching PragerU videos, but even they have written in and saying, I wasn't sure how to think about the Electoral College or how to explain the Electoral College by watching a 5-minute video by PragerU. I now better understand these ideas. That's what it is. We're writing down those notes for Americans so that we can all go back to singing the tune of the American dream.
I love it. I love it. And now, Marissa, I gotta warn you, I'm a little ghetto fabulous. So sometimes I like watching the videos just because I love beating up on left wing radicals too. So I have to if I'm
intellectual ammunition is helpful.
if I'm being completely honest here. So all right. So anyway, I love the videos. Let me just quickly get to these some of these acronyms because I feel like what PragerU does a successful job in combating is what I would call the new moralism, whether that's, identity politics, whether that's climate change. This is one of the reasons that I love PragerU because you can delve into these videos and it really is a moral issue. I see a lot of these issues as moral issues for the left. They're totally void of God. Oftentimes they don't go to church. They don't, they're not steeped in biblical values or what have you. And so they find their new morality, if you will, in other things, whether that is climate change, whether it's healthcare, whether it's CRT or DEI or the trans movement that is completely insane to me. And I feel like all of that stuff is created, this new morality for the left. It is to divide us, but it also, I think it's the Democrat Party. They suck at everything they do, but the one thing that they're very good at is dividing us. And these people look at the Democrat Party as champions for their emotional issues, while the Democrat Party becomes this authoritarian party that really wants to destroy all of their civil liberties.
I agree. I think they are bad at everything they do, but it's actually quite easy to be good at destroying. Destroying is very easy. Building is really hard.
That's a good point.
So basically what they do is they take a sledgehammer to everything. They take over it and they destroy it. And that's not a hard thing to do. So do I get to pitch you on adding another letter into your acronym?
Do it, please, por favor.
How about a W for woke?
Oh, man. Yeah, no doubt. No doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt. All right. So I'm going to have to go through the dictionary, find a word that encompasses a W, and then I don't
know if you can compete with all the letters that the left amasses to everything. LGBTQ ESG CRT.
It's going to be difficult to do, but I love taunting to the left, so I will figure it out, to be honest with you. Okay, so I watched another video of yours. You were talking about how everybody has to step up to the plate and get involved if we're going to fight back against the left. Talk to us about that.
All right. Well, do you want to hear a personal story of where that came from?
Sure.
Okay. So as you know, I'm an American that was raised in Israel. And when I was 13 years old, the school took us to the Holocaust Museum in Jerusalem. It was called Yad Vashem.
Okay.
And it's definitely a difficult experience to go there. It's a museum that is basically dedicated to capturing much of the evil that has been done against humans in Europe. And so I was 13 years old and I walk into the museum and it was completely dark and you zigzag through the exhibit. And I remember so well, and that feeling of just my heart sunk. I couldn't say a word. And I saw the piles of the luggage. And then I saw the piles of the baby shoes. And then you see the little hairbrushes. Wow. It's just so graphic. And then the emaciated people, all the images and the ovens. And I could not speak. My stomach was upside down. It was a real life horror story. And it made me so nauseous. And by the end of the exhibit, I kept walking through it. I didn't utter a word. There was a docent standing by the door, right under a light. And I walked up to her and I said to her, how could this happen? How could it go so far? Why didn't anybody stop this? And, I think now as an adult, that docent was probably stationed there to answer this very question, as most people would probably walk through that exhibit and ask. She looked and she looked at me and she said, young lady, most people rely on other people to fight for them. And they don't fight until it's too late.
Man.
And, it lit a fire in me that I could never be extinguished. I agree. Nobody is going to fight for my kids to have a better life. Nobody is going to do that. And if I wait for other people to do it, it's just not going to happen and it will be too late. And I learned that lesson. And from that moment on, what I cared about is making sure that I wouldn't be one of those people who stands idly by while I see evil happen. And so you tie that back to my story as an educator here in the United States, watching what is happening to American kids, seeing the standards going down, seeing the division that is happening within our classrooms, within our communities, seeing the politicization of the classrooms, and all of that, and that fire just came right back to me, and I just said, I can't stand idly by. And my answer is, I'm about 110 pounds. If I can enlist and get involved, anybody can do it, right? It's really just a matter of what's in here. It's what's in your heart and what is in your mind. We're so conditioned to think that we are not capable of doing anything, but it is not true. We are capable of doing a lot, especially when it comes to protecting our kids. And so when it comes to fighting, I'm just a strong believer that you keep fighting whether you think you're going to win or not.
Right.
While you can still fight, while you still have meat on your bones and you're able to walk and you're able to wake up and you have a mouth and you have breath in you, you can still fight.
Wow. I love that. I mean, that is honestly, that makes total sense. When you tell that story, walking through that museum, that just, it makes total sense. Anyway, I absolutely love that story. I appreciate you sharing that story. This is nowhere in comparison, but I do want to tell you a quick story, and then a couple more questions. We'll wrap up here. I used to run. My dad was a track coach when we were younger, so we would run track for our church league. And my brothers were pretty good. I wasn't the fastest, but I typically did pretty well for my age group. I would get first, second, or third place or whatever. I would typically place. And I can remember a time I must have been, I couldn't have been any more than maybe 8 or 9 years old at the time. I was running really young because we would always go with my dad when he would, coach these other kids and stuff and get involved in the youth competitions or what have you. But I can remember someone saying at the time when I was getting ready to run a race, well, everyone should get a trophy for effort. And I kid you not, I sat there thinking, Marissa, I was like, what? Do you understand how hard I work? And honestly, at that time, even to try to impress my dad, I would bust my butt, the stretching, the running around the track to try to build my win. I mean, at a very young age. And I sat there thinking at that age, are you crazy? I'm like, I didn't believe in that crap then. And it's just insane to me. But I think that most people are like that. They know inherently that left-wing policies and ideas are just wrong, but maybe they don't have the courage to say so.
Yeah, I mean, oh my gosh, I hate participation trophies. Not only do I hate participation trophies for kids like what you were, right, who work hard and are successful, but I actually think that the participation trophies hurt the kids who are not that successful.
Yes, I agree.
It doesn't teach them that important lesson that tomorrow morning you wake up earlier, you work harder, you stretch more, right? You get right to it. And that is one of the most important lessons in life. And if you don't teach a kid that during their formative years of growth and development, then they grow into one of those selfish, squishy Americans that nobody wants to hire.
Good stuff. This coming from the CEO of PragerU. So listen up to this, guys. Listen, if you're an American, you're absolutely blessed. There's so many things that I really brought you on, Marissa, because I love what you guys are doing at PragerU. Again, I was just going through PragerU, just checking out the ministries, and I do call them ministries that you guys have there, whether it's the kids ministries, your prep curriculum, for parents. Will you talk about that real quick? I think that's really important, if you don't mind.
I think America is going to have to go through an education revolution. As we talked about earlier, we are in a dire place in the state of America's education. And I think the only way we can do it is if we can get educators and parents to actually wake up and step into the arena and help save our kids. And so what we have done here is we've built a massive list of parents and educators who are willing to step in and protect kids and go to school boards and share our content with their children and do whatever it is, whatever blessing God has given them, we will help them figure out a way to solve this problem for Americans. And so all we encourage people to do is just subscribe so that we can inform people of opportunities to help save American kids. And so grandparents, educators, parents, anybody who has kids in their lives can actually get involved. And I'll tell you, over 1 million households have already downloaded the PragerU app. And so you can download it onto your TV. I don't know if you know this, but you can have Netflix, you can have Hulu, what I call oftentimes garbage for the brain. And then you can download PragerU. The PragerU app can be on your television or on your iPad or on your phone, broccoli for your brain, right? And so part of this whole vision is to really nourish America's mind. And, essentially this is what we're doing here. It's a great opportunity this coming month to get involved, subscribe to our newsletters so you can figure out a way to help save America, and obviously donate to us today so that we can really capitalize on that match. The triple match is a big deal for us.
All right. Absolutely love it. I got to tell you, Marissa Streit, she's the CEO of PragerU. For those of you that have been following along, just want to make sure you donate to PragerU. Obviously, this month it's a triple match, but donate any time of the year when you can, and donate what you can afford. Not everyone has a buttload of money, but I believe everyone has some type of responsibility to make sure that we fight and save America. If you're watching this podcast, you obviously would like to do that. You know what, Marissa, I got to say this with people like you, with PragerU and that ministry, and with ghetto fabulous conservatives like myself, I do believe that we're going to save America. I feel so comforted. I feel so comforted in this interview. So it's a weird, and it sounds kind of weird, but I just feel comforted in knowing there are people like you in the fight, because you're in California, I'm in Florida. And sometimes maybe I'm not sure about you, but sometimes I can feel a little isolated. But it's always helpful to know, no, there's tons of other people in the fight. And PragerU is obviously doing amazing work in the fight to save America.
I agree. And, God will, if you read God's word, you will learn that he does not allow us to feel defeated. And we know that those who are fighting against us will use that as a tool to take us down. They want us to feel defeated. They want us to feel alone. They want to treat us as if we're crazy so that we believe that we're crazy. But we have to remember the lessons in the Bible. The Old Testament talks about how when Moses sent the messengers into the land of Israel and the land of Canaan at that point, they came back in despair. And God was very upset about that. And so we must not despair, because the truth is on our side. God is on our side, but we do need to show up. We do need to show up in whatever way we can. And, people oftentimes think, oh, well, I don't have that much, I'm not that capable. Everybody is capable. Everybody can do something. And I guarantee you that it's a gift to do something. When you go to sleep at night, knowing that you've done something to make a difference, that is a great feeling. I have that great feeling, right? I'm sure you have that great feeling of helping people. And so we can all find a way to help our country. Our country needs help. We all know that our country needs help right now. Yep. And so this is an opportunity. Get involved, enlist, help PragerU, share your podcast far and wide so people learn and get inspired, and, just join us in making sure that we've all done everything we could. So no reason to feel despair, only motivated.
All right. Absolutely. Absolutely love it. And don't worry, if I feel despair, it is literally for a second, because I'm a weird cat. I've always loved being in the fight. There's no, in my opinion, I believe this is why God created me. There's no greater purpose for me. I really believe that God has called me, as he's obviously called you, to, I say, restore America. I do believe that we're in a post Judeo-Christian, post-constitutional America, but I think that it can be restored with fighters, and I believe that's why God has me here. So I'm happy to be a part of it. My life, I feel purposeful, frankly, thinking of of life in those terms. So, but Marissa, Streit, you are absolutely amazing. I love, again, what you guys are doing at PragerU. Please say hello to Dennis. Please say hello to Alan for me, if you'll hold on for just a sec so we make sure we don't lose this video. But I just want to say thank you. Really do appreciate you.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. All right, you've been tuning in to the Carl Jackson Show, the Carl Jackson Show podcast. Man, I can't even get it out. So please be sure to subscribe to the podcast wherever you go to get your podcast. Also follow me on social media. Wherever I am on social media, the Carl Jackson Show is where you can find me. Please share this podcast far and wide. You heard what Marissa said. She's a CEO, so you better pay attention, all right? So spread this podcast far and wide. Donate to PragerU. This is fundraising month for PragerU. I don't even work for PragerU. I just love them that much. And I want you to donate because it is a ministry. I really do sincerely believe that. It's a ministry. So guys, until next time, do not grow weary doing good. God bless you.